Okay, so imagine this. You're at the hotel check-in, and you're exhausted from your trip, and suddenly you blank on how to say, I have a reservation.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's why today we're doing this deep dive into this beginner English guide for hotel stays.
The one you sent us.
Yes, exactly, to help you navigate those situations and, sound like a pro, even if you're secretly freaking out.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about this guide is that it actually goes beyond just the basic phrases. It highlights how subtle language choices can really influence what kind of service you receive.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about being understood. It's about using the right English to get the best possible experience.
Exactly. Like, for example, did you know that there's actually a difference between asking for the bill and the invoice at checkout?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Using the wrong one could lead to confusion or even delays, especially if you're on a business trip with specific billing arrangements.
Wait, hold on. Bill versus invoice? I thought those are the same thing. Okay, we are definitely unpacking that later. But first, let's go back to that moment of arrival. You walk into the lobby, maybe a little jet lagged, and you need to announce your presence.
Yeah, this is where confidence is key.
Yeah.
It sets the tone for your entire stay.
Okay, so how do we strike that perfect balance of polite but assertive? Because sometimes I just want to collapse on the nearest couch.
Well, the guide recommends the classic, hello, I have a reservation under the name.
Right.
It's simple, but it gets the job done.
Isn't that a bit basic, though? I mean, even I know that one.
It might seem basic, but think about it. When you state your reservation clearly and confidently, you're signaling that you're organized and you expect a smooth check-in process.
Yeah, okay, good point. I guess it's about, projecting that I know what I'm doing vibe, even if internally I'm just hoping they have a room with a decent view.
Exactly. And this confidence carries through to the next step, presenting your ID.
Right. Got to prove you are who you say you are.
Don't be surprised if they ask for it.
Yeah.
It's standard procedure in most hotels worldwide.
Right. Yeah.
But what happens when they hand you that little plastic card? Is it key card now, or is it still room key?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The guide actually points out that both terms are really common, which I find fascinating because it reflects how language adapts to these new technologies.
So it's not about one being right and the other being wrong?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It often comes down to regional preferences or even the hotel's specific style. The key takeaway is, understanding both terms.
Okay, so I won't look like a deer in headlights if they say key card instead of room key.
Exactly.
Got it. Now let's fast forward to the moment I finally made it to my room, dumped my bags. What's the first thing I'm going to ask?
I think we both know the answer to that one.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yes, the guide suggests how do I connect to the Wi-Fi, but what if I need more than just the password? Where's the nearest charging port? Or do they have adapters if I forgot mine? Yeah, that's where you can build upon what the guide says. Get a little more specific. You could say something like, excuse me, would it be possible to borrow an adapter? Or I was wondering if there are any charging ports near the desk.
I like that it's polite, but it also, gets the point across. Though I have to admit, I sometimes feel a little awkward saying excuse me all the time. Does it really matter that much?
It might seem like a small thing, but, those little courtesies, they can make a big difference, especially in a hotel setting where you're interacting with staff who are there to help you.
I never thought about it that way. It's by being super polite, I'm actually increasing my chances of getting what I need.
Precisely. It shows that respect and consideration, which can go a long way in ensuring a positive interaction.
Okay. I am sold on the power of, excuse me. Now let's say I'm all settled in, but disaster strikes, I need more towels.
The classic towel conundrum.
The guide keeps it simple. Excuse me, my room does not have any towels, which is perfect if I've literally walked into a towelless void. But, I once had this hilarious experience where the hotel only provided those tiny hand towels, the kind that you can barely wrap around your pinky finger.
Oh, no.
It was like trying to dry myself with a postage stamp. If only I'd known how to ask for specific towel types back then. So how would I do that?
You can easily just adapt that basic request to be more specific. So instead of just saying towels, you could say, excuse me, could I please have some bath towels? Or even, would it be possible to get some larger towels?
Oh, okay. And what if I need other things like extra pillows or maybe even a different type of blanket?
The same principle applies. Just, remember the, excuse me, and then clearly state your request. Excuse me, could I request some extra pillows for my room? Or I was wondering if I could have a different blanket, perhaps one that's a bit warmer.
Okay, so Polite, clear, and specific. Got it. But now let's talk about something even more crucial than towels food.
Yes.
Because let's be honest, no one wants to be that hangry traveler.
Oh, the dreaded hangry traveler.
Left in the...
Yes. So how do we navigate, those tricky food situations? Like, what if the menu is in English and I'm not sure what everything is?
Yeah, the guide provides some helpful phrases for that. So like, what time is breakfast served? And can I order room service, please?
Oh, okay, those are great starting points. But what if I have dietary restrictions, or I just want to know what my options are beyond what's listed on the menu? Because let's be real, sometimes those hotel menus can be a bit limited.
Right. So that's where you need to get comfortable asking questions. Yeah. The guide gives an example of, do you have vegetarian options? Which is a great starting point.
Okay, and I can adapt that for my own needs, right? Like if I need gluten-free or vegan, I can just politely ask, do you offer any gluten-free dishes, or do you have any vegan choices?
Exactly. Don't be afraid to politely inquire about your specific needs. Most hotels are happy to accommodate dietary requests if they can.
This is making me realize that even if I'm beyond the beginner level of English, there's still so many nuances to learn.
That's the beauty of language. It's always evolving, and there's always something new to discover. Speaking of new discoveries, didn't we say we were going to unpack that whole bill versus invoice mystery? Because I am still totally lost on that one.
Right. We can't leave our listeners hanging. We need to dive into that.
Yes, please. Because I need to know if I've been accidentally asking for the wrong thing all these years.
Well, let's start with the bill. Think of it like what you would get at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's an itemized list of charges for everything you've consumed or used during your stay.
Okay, so that's room service, spa treatments, those tempting snacks from the minibar.
Exactly. And you typically settle this bill at checkout, either with cash or a credit card.
That makes sense, but then what's an invoice and why would I need it?
An invoice is a bit more formal. It's often used for business travelers or situations where payment might be handled later, like if a company is covering your expenses.
So if I'm on a business trip, my company might get an invoice for my stay and then they'll pay it separately.
Precisely.
Oh, okay.
And knowing this distinction is crucial because using the wrong term could cause confusion, especially at checkout. Imagine asking for the bill when you're actually supposed to be getting an invoice for your company.
Oh, I see what you mean. That could lead to some awkward delays while they try to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. So if you're ever unsure which term to use, there's a simple phrase that works in almost any situation. Could I settle my account, please?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's polite and clear, and it avoids any potential bill versus invoice confusion.
Exactly. And it shows that you're confident and in control, even if you're secretly feeling a bit flustered.
This is all making me realize how important it is to master these subtle language nuances, even if I thought I was past the beginner stage.
It's all about continually refining our skills and becoming more confident communicators, even in something as seemingly simple as ordering room service or asking for a towel.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from nailing that confident check-in to deciphering the mysteries of bills and invoices. I'm already feeling more prepared for my next hotel stay.
That's wonderful to hear, but we're not done yet. There's still some hidden gems in this guide that we need to explore.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What else have we got in store for our listeners?
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
All right.
But trust me, it's good stuff.
Okay, I'm excited.
Welcome back to our deep dive into English in the hotel.
Yeah, we've already uncovered some really fascinating insights about, how those subtle language choices can really make or break your travel experience,
Yeah, and, I've noticed something interesting about this guide.
Okay.
It really emphasizes that importance of politeness.
Now that you mention it, I have noticed that too. It seems like every other phrase starts with, excuse me, or could you please?
Exactly. And that's not a coincidence. It really highlights a crucial aspect of travel, especially when you're navigating different cultures and languages. Politeness goes a long way in ensuring smooth interactions and, positive experiences.
I guess it's kind of like a universal language of respect, Even if you're still figuring out the exact words, just being polite shows that you're making an effort.
Precisely. It demonstrates that you value the other person's time and effort, which can really make a difference in how you're treated.
So it's not just about getting what I want. It's about, building that positive rapport with the hotel staff.
Exactly. It's about creating a more harmonious and enjoyable experience for everyone involved.
Okay, I'm definitely on board with the power of politeness, but let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about, how to ask for things, but what about those times when I need to understand what someone is saying to me like at check-in when they're rattling off information about breakfast times or hotel amenities.
That's an excellent point. The guide doesn't explicitly cover comprehension skills, but it does provide a valuable clue in one of those sample conversations. Remember when the receptionist says, breakfast is from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the restaurant?
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. But what if I didn't catch all of that? Especially if the receptionist has an accent or I'm, just tired from traveling.
Right. Well, that's where those clarifying phrases can really come in handy. You could say something like, excuse me, could you repeat that, please? Or just to confirm, breakfast is served from 7 to 10.
So it's about being proactive and, making sure I understand the information correctly. No more awkward nodding and pretending I heard everything.
Exactly. And don't worry, even native English speakers use these phrases all the time to avoid misunderstandings.
Okay, good.
It's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
It shows that you're paying attention and you want to get things right.
This deep dive is really making me realize how even seemingly basic English phrases can really have a big impact on my, travel experience. It's like having secret codes to unlock those smoother interactions.
I love that analogy. And, there's one more code we need to discuss.
Okay.
The checkout process.
Oh.
It can sometimes feel a bit rushed or confusing, especially if you're trying to remember all the details of your stay.
Oh, tell me about it. Did I use the minibar? Did I charge anything to my room? Did I leave that one sock under the bed? It's a lot to keep track of.
And that's where the guide subtly prepares you with that phrase, can I have the gull, please?
Which, again, seems pretty straightforward. But didn't you mention earlier that there's a difference between the bill and the invoice?
Absolutely. And this is a perfect example of how knowing these nuances of hotel English can really prevent confusion and potential delays at checkout.
Okay, so remind me again, what's the key distinction? I'm still a bit fuzzy on that.
Think of the bill as what you get at a restaurant.
Right.
It's an itemized list of charges for things you consumed or used during your stay.
So room service spa treatments, those tempting snacks from the minibar.
Exactly. And you typically settle this bill upon checkout, either with cash or a credit card.
And the invoice is different, how?
An invoice is a more formal document, often used for business days or prepaid bookings.
Okay.
It provides a detailed breakdown of charges that might be billed to a company or settled later.
So if I'm on a business trip, I might not actually be paying the bill myself, but rather my company will handle it later based on the invoice.
Precisely. And knowing this distinction can really help you avoid awkwardness or delays at checkout. If you're unsure which term to use, a simple, could I settle my account, please, will always work.
Okay, I think I'm finally getting it so armed with this knowledge. I can confidently stroll up to the front desk and say, excuse me, could I have the bill, please? Or could you please provide me with the invoice for my stay?
Exactly.
Depending on the situation.
And that's the power of this deep dive. Taking these seemingly basic phrases and understanding those subtle nuances that make you a more confident and savvy traveler.
It's like leveling up my travel game one phrase at a time. But, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet that I think a lot of travelers stress about, myself included.
Do tell.
Tipping.
Oh, yeah.
Is there proper etiquette for tipping hotel staff in English-speaking countries? The guide doesn't mention it, but I'm always so nervous about getting it wrong.
That's a fantastic question, and one that often causes confusion for travelers.
Yeah.
While it's not explicitly covered in the guide, we can definitely shed some light on it. Tipping customs can vary slightly between countries like the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. But generally, it's customary to tip bellhops for carrying your luggage, housekeeping staff for cleaning your room, and room service personnel.
Okay, so who do we tip and how much? I'm always so nervous about getting it wrong.
Don't worry, it's simpler than you might think. For bellhops, a standard tip is $1-2 per bag.
Easy enough. And what about housekeeping?
It's generally considered good etiquette to leave a few dollars per day for housekeeping, either on the nightstand or with a note saying thank you.
Okay, got it. So a little appreciation goes a long way. What about room service?
For room service, a tip of 15-20% of the bill is standard, similar to tipping at a restaurant.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about being mindful and showing gratitude for the services provided. Speaking of gratitude, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for all this amazing information you've shared today.
It's my pleasure. I love demystifying these seemingly simple things that can actually make a big difference in your travel experience.
You've definitely succeeded in that. I feel like I've unlocked a whole new level of confidence when it comes to navigating hotels in English.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, even if you make a small mistake or feel a little flustered, a smile and a polite, can go a long way.
So true. It's all about embracing the learning process and enjoying the journey. But before we wrap up, you mentioned there was a final thought-provoking question for our listeners. something that goes beyond the guide itself.
Yes, we've talked a lot about practical phrases and tips, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. How might these seemingly simple English phrases actually boost your confidence and make your trip more enjoyable overall?
Ooh, that is a great question. I think for me, it's about feeling empowered to communicate my needs, understand what's being said to me, and just navigate those everyday travel situations with more ease. It's almost like speaking the language unlocks a whole new level of enjoyment and connection.
Precisely, it's about more than just the words themselves. It's about feeling comfortable and confident in a new environment.
So to all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear your reflections on this question. How has mastering some key English phrases impacted your travel experiences? Share your thoughts on our social media channels or leave a comment on the podcast page.
We always love hearing from you.
Right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of English in the hotel. And, after going through this beginner's guide, I'm realizing that even those seemingly simple phrases can be packed with all these subtle meanings.
That's what makes language so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a code that unlocks this deeper cultural understanding.
Exactly. And speaking of codes, didn't we want to touch on tipping etiquette?
Yes.
Before we wrap up, the guide doesn't cover it, but it's something that I always find a bit tricky when traveling to English-speaking countries.
You're right. Tipping can definitely be a source of anxiety for travelers, especially when you're not sure about the local customs. It's not something that's always explicitly taught in language guides, but it is crucial for smooth and respectful interactions.
So let's break it down. Who are the key people we should be tipping in a typical hotel setting?
Well, the most common scenarios you'll encounter are tipping bellhops for handling your luggage, housekeeping staff for cleaning your room, and room service personnel for delivering food or drinks.
Okay, those are the usual suspects. But how much should we be tipping? I'm always afraid of either under-tipping and seeming rude or over-tipping and looking like I don't know what I'm doing.
Don't worry, there's some general guidelines you can follow for bellhops. A standard tip is $1 to $2 per bag.
That's easy enough to remember. So if I have 2 bags, a couple of bucks should do the trick. What about housekeeping? They do such an important job, but I'm never quite sure how to tip them discreetly.
It's generally considered good etiquette to leave a few dollars per day for housekeeping. You can either place the money on your nightstand or bedside table with a little note saying, "Thank you." Or, if you prefer, you can leave the tip at the front desk when you check out and ask them to pass it along to housekeeping.
Got it. So a few dollars a day for housekeeping, either in the room or at the front desk. What about room service? I feel like that one's a bit trickier since the bill amount can vary depending on what I order.
You're right. The room service tip is usually calculated as a percentage of the total bill. A standard tip is 15 to 20%, similar to what you would tip at a restaurant.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about being mindful of the services provided and showing our appreciation through tipping.
Exactly. Tipping is a way to acknowledge the hard work of hotel staff and ensure a positive experience for everyone involved.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I've not only improved my hotel English, but I've also gained a deeper understanding of those cultural nuances that go along with it.
That's what I love about exploring language.
Yeah.
It's a gateway to a richer cultural experience.
Absolutely. And remember, even if you make a small mistake or have a moment of language fluster, a smile and a polite "excuse me" can go a long way.
So true. Most people are understanding and appreciate the effort you're making to communicate effectively.
Before we wrap up this episode, I want to remind our listeners of that thought-provoking question we posed earlier. How might these seemingly simple English phrases actually boost your confidence and make your trip more enjoyable overall? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences.
Yes, please share your insights with us on our social media channels or leave a comment on the podcast page. We always appreciate hearing from our listeners.
And on that note, it's time for us to check out of this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, may your travels be filled with smooth communication and memorable experiences.
Happy travels, everyone. Okay, so have you ever been in a hotel and you just can't quite, find the right words?
Oh, absolutely. Those lost in translation moments can be a little frustrating.
Yes. So today we're doing a deep dive into hotel English. But, and this is key, we're not talking about the basics. We're assuming you know how to say please and thank you.
Right. This is about leveling up. Think of it as unlocking that VIP level of communication so you can really get the most out of your hotel stay.
Exactly. We've got a ton of great sources here packed with all sorts of hotel-specific lingo and real-world dialogue examples. So are you ready to transform your hotel experience?
Absolutely. I think what's so fascinating about this topic is that strong communication can really make all the difference when you're traveling.
It really can. Okay, so first things first, let's dive into some essential vocabulary. I'm curious, when you hear the word concierge, what comes to mind?
Well, I think a lot of people might picture like someone who just books tours or helps you with directions.
Right, me too. But it's so much more than that.
It is. Think of the concierge as your, like a personal assistant at the hotel.
Ooh, I like that. Like a secret weapon for travelers.
Exactly. Need a reservation at that impossible to get into restaurant? The concierge might be able to work some magic. Looking for tickets to a sold-out show? They might have a few tricks up their sleeve.
Wow. Okay, so I'm definitely going to be making friends with the concierge from now on. Now let's move on to a couple of words that I always get mixed up. Complimentary and amenities. Can you help me out with those?
Sure. So complimentary refers to those delightful freebies that come with your stay. Things like Wi-Fi, breakfast, maybe even a welcome drink. It's all part of the package.
Okay, so it's like those little perks that make you feel all pampered and special.
Exactly. And then amenities refers to the broader range of facilities and services that the hotel offers. So things like the gym, the spa, the pool, these are perks that might come with an extra cost, but they can really elevate your experience.
Got it. So complimentary is the free stuff that makes me smile, and amenities are the fancy extras that might tempt me to splurge a little.
Precisely. Now, knowing these terms is great, but to really master hotel English, we need to level up our game. Let's move beyond single words and into the realm of phrases.
Yes. I mean, we all know the basics like please and thank you, but are there specific phrases that can help us, navigate those common hotel situations?
Absolutely. Let's start with the check-in process. Instead of just saying, I have a reservation, try something like, good evening, I have a reservation under your name. Could I check in, please? It's clear, it's polite, and it sets a professional tone right from the start.
Ooh, I like that. It's all about adding that touch of formality, right? Now, what if I'm hoping for a room with an amazing view? Is there a magic phrase I can use?
You can absolutely ask. You could say something like, would it be possible to get a room with a nice view, please? Or if you're looking for a quieter stay, you could try, if available, I'd prefer a room away from the elevators.
Okay, those are good. So being specific about what you want is key. What about when you need to request services during your stay? Like, say you need extra towels, or you want to ask about a late checkout.
There are some go-to phrases that can come in handy. For example, you could say, could I have some additional towels sent to my room, please? And for a late checkout, try, I'd like to request a late checkout, if possible. What's the latest I could depart?
I see. It's all about being direct, but still polite, right? But what about when things go wrong? Like, what if there's a problem with your room and you need to complain? Those situations can be kind of awkward.
You're right, those situations can be tricky. But remember, clear, calm, and polite communication is your best tool. For example, let's say the air conditioning in your room isn't working. Instead of getting flustered, try saying, excuse me, but the air conditioning in my room doesn't seem to be working properly. Could you please send someone to take a look?
Okay, that sounds much better than me just saying, it's hot in here. Like, way more professional.
Exactly. And if you encounter a problem like a leaky faucet or an issue with the Wi-Fi, you can use a similar approach. Just clearly state the problem, politely request assistance, and try to avoid getting, overly emotional.
I think it's so helpful to actually practice those real-life situations. It's like a dress rehearsal for your next hotel stay.
I totally agree. It's one thing to know the phrases, but it's another to actually feel comfortable using them.
Right. So are you ready to put our hotel English skills to the test?
I'm game. Let's do it.
Okay, let's imagine you've just arrived at a hotel. You're all checked in and ready to start your vacation. How would you go about asking for a room with a great view?
Let's see. I might say something like, excuse me, I was wondering if it would be possible to get a room on a higher floor with a good view.
And I, as the friendly front desk clerk, would say, of course, let me check what we have available.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Exactly. Now let's fast forward a bit. Let's say you're a few days into your stay and you need to request a late checkout. What would you say?
Okay, I'd probably go to the front desk and say, hi there, I'm really enjoying my stay, and I was wondering if it would be possible to get a late checkout tomorrow.
Perfect. And I, as the helpful receptionist, would reply, let me just see what we can do for you. Okay, we can extend your checkout until 2 p.m. for a small fee of $25. Would that work?
That would be great. Thank you so much.
See? Smooth and easy. Now, let's try a slightly trickier scenario. What if there's a problem with your room? Say the air conditioning isn't working. How would you handle that?
Well, first, I'd take a deep breath and remind myself to stay calm. Then I'd pick up the phone and call the front desk. I might say something like, "Hi, this is your name from room number. I'm having some trouble with the air conditioning. It doesn't seem to be cooling the room at all."
And I, as the concerned receptionist, would respond with, "Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. We'll send someone up to your room right away to take a look."
Okay, that's reassuring.
It is. It's all about being clear and direct about the problem, but without getting, upset or angry.
Right. Because getting flustered never helps.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something really important, cultural awareness. Because what might be considered polite or appropriate in one culture might not be in another.
That's a great point. Nonverbal cues can be especially tricky. For example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is seen as a sign of respect, while in others, it can be interpreted as aggressive or confrontational.
So how can travelers, avoid those kinds of misunderstandings? It's impossible to be an expert on every culture.
Well, I think the key is to be observant and respectful. Pay attention to how people are interacting, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure about something. Most people are happy to share their customs and traditions.
It's about approaching those interactions with a sense of humility, right?
Exactly. Travel is all about learning and experiencing new things, and that includes learning about different ways of communicating.
Now, I'd love to hear from our listeners. What are some of your most memorable hotel experiences, good or bad? And what did you learn about communication from those experiences?
Oh, I bet there's some great stories out there.
I know I have a few. Like that time I was in Rome and I tried to order an extra blanket in Italian. Let's just say my pronunciation needs a little work.
Oh, I can only imagine. But those kinds of experiences are all part of the fun of travel.
Exactly. They make for great stories later. And they teach us that sometimes the best way to communicate is to simply be ourselves, even if it means making a few mistakes along the way.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, I want to share a few smart hotel tips that I've picked up over the years. These are like those little insider secrets that can really make a difference in your hotel experience. Okay, so tip number 1, always confirm what's included in your rate. Don't assume breakfast, Wi-Fi, or parking are complimentary just because you saw on the website.
Right. Double check with the front desk when you check in. You don't want any surprises on your bill.
Exactly. Okay, tip number 2, think about the location of your room. If you're a light sleeper, you might want to request a room that's away from the elevators or the ice machine.
Yes. Or if you want a nice view, you might request a higher floor.
Ooh, good point. Okay, tip number 3. If you know you're going to need a late checkout, try to arrange it early in your stay. Don't wait until the last minute.
Right. Hotels are often much more accommodating if you give them plenty of notice.
Okay, last but not least, tip number 4. Safety first. Always use the in-room safe for your valuables like your passport, jewelry, and any extra cash.
And if you're leaving your room for the day, make sure to let the front desk know that you want your room cleaned.
Good point. Now, before we sign off, I just want to say I think it's so amazing how something as simple as, mastering hotel English can actually make such a big difference in our travel experiences. It can make us feel more confident, more comfortable, and more connected to the world around us.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering ourselves to navigate those unfamiliar situations and really make the most of our adventures.
So to our listeners out there, as you're packing your bags for your next trip, remember to pack your curiosity, your open-mindedness, and of course, your newfound hotel English skills.
Safe travels, everyone.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Until next time.
All right, so are you ready to really step up your hotel game? We're not talking about just basic travel phrases here.
Right.
This is you want to walk into any hotel, anywhere
in the world,
and communicate with the kind of confidence that, gets you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even gets you perks.
Exactly. That's what we're diving into. It's fascinating, isn't it? How just the right language can transform a travel experience.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got this great script from an advanced English course for hotel stays. And honestly, I was a little surprised by how much strategy is involved. It's not just about speaking English. It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of the hotel world.
It's like learning the unspoken rules of a game.
Yes.
Once you know the moves, you can play it to your advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this. So one thing that really jumped out at me was the vocabulary. They use words like boutique hotel or concierge service, which, those are pretty common. We hear those a lot.
Right.
But using them signals something specific to hotel staff. What do you think?
I think it shows you're a discerning traveler. You know someone who appreciates the nuances of different types of hotels and services.
Yeah.
And using that kind of vocabulary really does set you apart, I think,
Yes.
from the average tourist.
It's like you're speaking their language, showing that you understand the kind of hierarchy
Exactly.
of the hotel world.
Yeah.
And that can really make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. It's about establishing credibility, building rapport
Right.
from the moment you walk in.
Okay. Now, notice they also use these terms like peak season and off season. I mean, most travelers know what those mean, but is there a strategic advantage to actually using those in conversation?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It demonstrates that you're, a savvy traveler, someone who plans ahead, understands the factors that influence pricing and availability. It subtly suggests that you're not someone who can be easily swayed by tourist traps or last-minute deals.
Interesting. It's like you're signaling that you're in control.
Yes.
You know, you're not going to be taken advantage of. Okay, so vocabulary is important. But the script also emphasizes, I noticed, like the power of phrasing.
Yeah.
They have all these examples of how to make requests or handle complaints or even like negotiate, all while sounding incredibly polite and polished.
Politeness is key, I think, in the hospitality industry.
Right.
Remember, you're essentially asking for favors.
Yeah.
Whether it's an upgrade or a late checkout or resolving a problem.
But isn't there a risk of being too passive?
Oh, for sure.
Where's the line between polite and pushover?
That's such a great question. It's a balancing act.
Right.
You want to be assertive, but not aggressive. The script has some clever techniques for achieving that balance.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for instance, let's say you're hoping for a room upgrade.
Okay.
Instead of saying, can I get an upgrade? Which can sound demanding.
Yeah.
They suggest saying something like,
let me guess.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to get a room upgrade if one is available?
Exactly. Notice the difference in tone.
Yes.
It's less about entitlement and more about, exploring possibilities.
Yeah, and it kind of subtly implies that you understand that upgrades are a privilege, not a right.
Precisely. It puts the staff member in a position where they're more likely to want to help you.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about framing your requests in a way that makes the other person feel respected and empowered.
Exactly. It's about collaboration, not confrontation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Collaboration, not confrontation. Okay, so we've talked about vocabulary and phrasing, but I'm curious to see how this all played out in an actual conversation. Does the script actually give examples of these techniques in action?
It does, yeah. The next section is dedicated to realistic hotel dialogues.
Okay.
So it's showing us how these language strategies can be used in different scenarios.
All right, so let's put ourselves in the listener's shoes here.
Okay.
Imagine you've just arrived at the hotel.
Hey.
You're at the front desk checking in. What's a situation where these language skills could really come in handy?
Well, let's say you're hoping for an upgrade.
Okay.
But you don't want to come across as demanding or entitled.
Right.
The script provides a perfect example of how to approach this subtly.
Let's hear it. How does this smooth traveler make their move?
Okay. So the guest starts by confirming their reservation, then seamlessly transitions into the upgrade request.
Okay.
They say something like, I have a reservation under name.
Okay.
I was wondering, are there any complimentary upgrades available at the moment?
Okay, I see what they did there. They're not demanding an upgrade. They're simply inquiring about the possibility.
Exactly.
And I was wondering, adds a touch of politeness.
Yeah.
Almost like they're hesitant to even ask.
Exactly. It's all about framing the request in a way that makes the staff member feel empowered to say yes.
I like that.
Now, let's say the receptionist responds with something like, let me check. We do have a deluxe suite available.
Okay.
But there's an additional charge.
Okay, so they're not immediately shutting down the request, which is a good sign.
Right.
They're offering an alternative, opening the door for negotiation.
Right. And at this point, the savvy traveler could either accept the offer, politely decline, or even try to negotiate a better rate.
Right.
The key is to remain flexible and maintain a positive rapport with the staff member.
I like how this approach, gives you options and keeps the conversation flowing smoothly. It's not confrontational at all.
Exactly. It's about creating a win-win situation. Now, let's move on to another Common scenario. Dealing with a billing issue.
Ooh.
It's happened to all of us, and it can be quite stressful.
Oh, I know that feeling. That heart-sinking moment when you see a charge you don't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
What does the script suggest for handling that gracefully?
Let's say you're checking out and you notice a charge for something you didn't order. Instead of getting flustered,
Right.
the script advises you to calmly approach the receptionist
Okay.
and say, I'm just reviewing my bill, and I noticed this charge. Could you help me clarify this?
Again, it's about being polite but assertive. You're not accusing anyone.
Right.
You're simply seeking an explanation.
And the way you phrase it, could you help me clarify this?
Yeah.
Implies that you trust the receptionist to resolve the issue.
Okay.
Now, let's say the receptionist looks into it and explains the charge. What if you're certain it's a mistake?
Well, I wouldn't just back down,
Right.
but I also wouldn't want to get into an argument. How do you balance firmness with politeness?
The script suggests saying something like, I understand,
Okay.
but I'm certain I didn't order this. Could we double check this against the room service records?
Okay, that's a smart move. You're not just dismissing their explanation.
Right.
You're proposing a specific way to verify the information.
Exactly. And in most cases, the receptionist will be happy to investigate further. After all, they want to ensure their guests are satisfied.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. It's like you're learning the art of persuasion, but in a very subtle and respectful way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's about influencing outcomes through effective communication.
Now, let's tackle the ultimate hotel nightmare.
Okay.
Overbooking. You arrive, exhausted, ready to relax.
Right.
And suddenly you're told there's no room for you. What do?
This is where those language skills become even more crucial.
Right.
The script gives you a powerful opening line. I booked my stay months ago. I just received a notification that the hotel is overbooked.
Yeah.
What are my options?
Okay, I like that. You're stating the facts calmly, but firmly. And most importantly, you're asking for solutions,
Yeah.
not just accepting their apology.
Right. And the way you phrase it, what are my options,
Yeah.
subtly puts the ball in their court.
Okay.
It implies that you expect them to provide viable alternatives.
So you're not letting them off the hook with a simple apology.
Exactly.
You're taking control of the situation.
Right.
How does the receptionist typically respond in these cases?
Well, they usually offer a solution, like a room at a nearby partner hotel. But the key is to listen carefully to their offer and not be afraid to negotiate.
Okay. So if the alternative hotel isn't ideal,
Right.
what could you say?
You could say something like, I appreciate the offer,
Okay.
but I was really looking forward to staying at this hotel. Is there any chance of a cancellation coming up?
So you're expressing your preference, but also leaving the door open for a possible change in plans.
Exactly. And if they say there's a wait list, you could ask to be put on it
Right.
and request to be contacted immediately if something opens up.
It's amazing how a few carefully chosen words can completely shift the dynamics of the conversation.
Yes,
You go from
that's it.
feeling helpless
Yeah,
to feeling empowered.
absolutely. It's about advocating for yourself while maintaining a professional and respectful demeanor. These difficult situations
Yeah.
are often where strong communication skills
Yes.
make the biggest difference.
I'm really starting to see the value in mastering these techniques. It's not just about, sounding fancy.
Right.
It's about navigating the complexities of the travel world with confidence and grace.
And that confidence can open doors to unexpected opportunities.
Yes.
You never know what kind of perks or upgrades might come your way
Right.
when you communicate effectively.
Okay, so it feels like we've covered a lot already, but
Yeah.
the script also has a section on pro tips
Right.
for a smoother hotel experience. I'm guessing these aren't your typical travel blog cliches.
Definitely not. These are more like insider secrets that can really elevate your stay.
Okay.
And some of them are surprisingly simple.
All right. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Lay some wisdom on me.
Okay, well, one tip that often gets overlooked is booking directly with the hotel.
Okay.
Cutting out those third-party booking sites can sometimes lead to better rates
Okay.
and might even give you more leverage if any issues arise
Right.
during your stay.
That makes sense. You're establishing a direct relationship
Right.
with the hotel, showing them you're serious about staying there.
Exactly. And speaking of being proactive, another tip is to always confirm your reservation details a few days before arrival. This helps avoid any surprises or mix-ups at check-in, especially if you've booked, specific room types or requested special amenities.
Right. And I can see how that would save a lot of hassle, especially if you're traveling during peak season
Yeah.
or to a busy destination. It's like having that extra layer of reassurance that everything is in order.
Exactly. And here's a tip that could come in handy if, despite your best efforts, you encounter an issue, like the dreaded overbooking situation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to politely inquire about compensation options.
Okay. So even if they've arranged a room at a partner hotel, it's worth asking if they can offer anything additional to make up for the inconvenience.
Absolutely. They might offer, complimentary meals, spa credits, or even a discount on a future stay.
Wow.
You never know what they might be willing to do to keep a guest happy.
That's a great reminder to, advocate for yourself while still being respectful. Sometimes a little polite persistence can go a long way. What other insider tips does the script offer?
Well, one that I personally find invaluable is utilizing the concierge service.
Okay.
Many travelers underestimate the power of a good concierge.
I have to admit, I'm sometimes guilty of that.
Yeah.
I tend to do my own, research and planning.
Sure.
But what am I missing out on?
Concierges are like local experts.
Okay.
They have their fingers on the pulse of the city.
All right.
They can offer personalized recommendations for restaurants, attractions, events, you name it.
Wow.
They can often secure tickets to sold-out shows, get you reservations at the hottest restaurants, or even arrange unique experiences that you wouldn't find on your own.
So they're not just for booking dinner reservations. They can really open doors to a whole different level of travel experience.
Exactly. They can help you discover hidden gems, navigate local customs, and truly make the most of your time in a new place. And one final tip.
Okay.
This one's about financial peace of mind.
Yeah.
Always request a printed copy of your bill and review it carefully before checking out.
That's a good habit to get into. It's so easy to overlook errors or discrepancies when you're in a hurry to leave.
Exactly. It's a simple step that can save you from potential billing surprises down the road.
Wow. Okay, these pro tips are gold. They really add another layer of strategy to the whole hotel experience. It's not just about speaking the language. It's about understanding the game and playing it well.
And that's ultimately what this deep dive is all about. Empowering you to navigate the world of hotels with confidence, finesse, and maybe even a little bit of strategic charm.
I feel like our listener is walking away from this with a whole new toolkit for their next trip. They've got the vocabulary, they've got the phrases, the pro tips. It's all coming together.
It's like they've unlocked a secret level of travel.
Right.
Who knows what adventures await them now.
Maybe they'll discover a hidden speakeasy, score front row seats to a concert, or negotiate a room upgrade with the grace of a seasoned diplomat.
The point is, don't be afraid to put this knowledge into practice.
Yes.
Experiment, have fun, and see what doors open.
Yeah.
And you communicate with confidence and style.
So to our listener, we say, bon voyage.
Yeah.
Go forth and conquer those hotel lobbies.
And remember, the world is full of amazing experiences waiting to be discovered. Happy travels.